This summer I traveled to Ghana with a group of 4 students from the University of Iowa, and we went on a 5-week needs assessment trip in a small village called Kobridi, about 5 hours north of the capital Accra in Western Africa in Ghana. And our advisor was Craig Just from the Civil Environmental Engineering Department.
The purpose of the assessment trip was to get an idea of the village and some of the things that could possibly help them develop as a community. Our 2 major facilitators on this trip were Benjamin Kusi and then Moses. Both of them were able to take us around the village and help us interact with the locals. Most people in the village only speak Tree, the local language in Ghana. So without them, it would be very hard to communicate. Nate and I were assigned to the engineering aspects of the assessment. You know, quality of water. Is their water making them sick or not? Just trying to find out as much information as we could about the community from kind of like an infrastructure point of view. There's 2 centrally located boreholes in the village of Kobridi, and those are currently providing all of the water to the village. So it's very important that this water is safe for them to drink.
So we're hanging out in Kobridi, and all of a sudden a big truck shows up and starts to take a lot of water for drinking, for a farm nearby, for the goats and for the kitchen, and evidently for a lot of other people too.
And from an engineering standpoint, that's a water supply issue that we would have never even thought of had we not been there and observed that given day.
There were 69 families that we accounted for in our surveys, asking pretty simple questions to try and get an idea of the overall health and wellness in the community.
Where they get their water, do they treat their water, would they be interested in treating their water, things like that. Just kind of trying to get a feel for the village and what they would be open to.
So we wrote down a bunch of data. I took a family photo and simple first aid, public health education as well.
I don't.
I didn't know what to expect when I went for my first day at the district hospital. Just the manpower of the hospital was the first initial shock for me. And because of that shortage of manpower, I was basically a functioning physician for the time that I was there. What I said was the final say. So that was a little scary, but I was okay with it because I knew the reason for that was that they just didn't have enough people to help, so at least I was someone.
I think I'd pay someone to keep these in their belt.
Black Star. Yes.
A big deal for us was to not rush things. We really wanted to take our time and try to develop a real relationship with the community. One thing that's pretty interesting about Ghana and places like it is they do have a lot of foods that are very different from what we would eat here. One of my personal favorites is fufu. The best I could describe it would be kind of a doughish type material, and it's submerged in a spicy soup.
And now he seems to savor fufu. Is that true, Thomas? Thomas loves his fufu.
We had an opportunity to make fufu.
Okay. Yes.
It's quite the process. The first couple times you see it, you have no idea how the lady still has a hand, because it's very well coordinated.
We had a final closing ceremony, a full village. The chief elder was there, Thomas, Nate, Sarah, myself, Benjamin translating, Moses helping translate as well. We had bought some traditional Ghanaian fabric and had a seamstress close by where we were living measure and make us traditional Ghanaian dresses and shirts.
It was sort of a way for us to say that, you know, we felt like part of their community. Then finally at the very end, this was an opportunity for us to give those family photos to them as sort of a thank you for the time that they had spent with us.
There's very few mirrors, and so people hadn't really seen pictures or what they look like. And once the first few pictures were handed out and everyone realized what was going on, that we have a family picture, and everyone was huddling around and just ecstatic and huge smiles.
It was nice when the business end of the trip was all finished and we were there for such a long time that we did have a few days to just kind of enjoy Ghana. We were able to go to the Museum of the Slave Castle, and then we were able to go to a national reserve where there's a rope bridge that winds across the canopy of one of the major forests there.
Look at this vine. Nate, here's your dream come true. After our time in the village, we just trying to wind down and reflect on what we'd seen and try to brace ourselves for coming back to the States.
I took a lot of things out of Ghana, but I think the main thing was just the change in perspective going abroad brings you, just to see some people have such difficult lives for just water and food.
I think the biggest thing for me coming back is just appreciating a lot of the benefits that we have here in the U.S.
You know, you go to these places and they don't have that much, but you meet people and they're happy. They'd be happier than people here. You know, they're very friendly, and it's a very good feeling. They really welcome you.
It was very much a family feeling in the village and then where we were staying. They called me Sister Sarah and gave hugs, and were just so excited every time they saw us. I didn't expect to feel like I was leaving my family when I left. Over 5 weeks' time, you don't expect to have another family, but that's what it felt like.